Here we are. Let's see. All right. Welcome, guys. This is Mythborn. This is episode 25, and we're talking about martial arts part 2 of 3. And I wanted to talk a little bit about my personal training and how that training has influenced the writing of Mythborn. Give you guys some tips on how to sort of bring some of that martial combat into your writing if you're a writer, and how to make it sound good. Also, as I promised last week, I do have a really cool weapon to show you guys a little bit later. But for now, let's just talk about some housekeeping stuff. So I will be at the, what's it called? I believe the Barnes & Noble on Rockville Pike on November 10th. I've been sort of saying it every week, but, we're roughly 20 days away. So I hope if you're in the Rockville area or in Maryland, you can show up and be part of the festivities and fun. It should be a great weekend, a great time to get your autographed copy of Mythborn. I'm happy to sign it. The audiobook is doing awesome. So please, if you haven't checked it out already, go check it out. And thank you. Thank you all for your support on that. I really do appreciate it. Let's see, we are right now trying something a little even more new, which is I actually have 2 cameras set up. I have a camera right here, and I have a camera right here, which you guys can see. And the goal here is that maybe the Facebook fans will get a live stream, the YouTube fans will get a live stream, and then I'll somehow merge these two. I've gotten pretty good at, I've always sort of been able to use Adobe Premiere, but pretty good at sort of cutting and splicing and things like that. So, that will go onto the Patreon page, and we'll do some neat cuts and things like that. And also, like I said before, start adding in artwork and things like that to better explain points and the result. Okay, so that check out the audiobook on Audible and on Amazon. Check out the book on Amazon.com. Go to our website, mythbornmedia.com, and you can check out all this stuff we'll be posting there. Also, what really has been going cool lately is I've been on a lot of radio shows. So I know you guys saw probably on Facebook me posting that I was on KTLA Morning with Dan and Sam and Danny, and that was awesome. They're really, really nice. I think I will be back on Night Dreams, which sounds odd, but it's actually about thinking about like the ghosts and paranormal stuff that you see when you're online. When you're late at night. It's a show made for truckers, so I think it will go over well with them. They get to hear a little bit about the paranormal. And, there's so many great people out there who are, doing research on the paranormal and on things like mythology and stuff. And they do have a lot of information that I believe is amazing. But the benefit of listening to me, I think, is I'm basically like you guys. I do my research on Google. I'm not paid by anybody to do the research. I also, in general, am a skeptic, but I have my mind open. So I tend to start with, I believe it's probably something explainable. And so I try and cull through the stuff that is so obviously fake. I don't know how many dinner plates we've seen up in YouTube of people trying to say it's a UFO. Yeah, okay, fine. Some of them are so obviously fake, it's not even funny. There was one where a person was taking a video out of a ship of this like light that was right there, and it was so clearly the reflection of the light behind him from the ceiling, turning on and off. Someone was messing with the thing to make it look like it was glowing. And so, I'll get through all that stuff and not waste your time. I'll really try and put things up that influenced Mythborn that are actually interesting and interesting topics that I'm not sure what the answer is. Also, frankly, talk about what are some of the explanations that could make it true. So let me give you a great example. People think these UFOs are coming here from across the galaxy or wherever. First of all, across the galaxy is insanely far. So unless they're jumping through some kind of squeezing of space-time, a wormhole or something like that, and they have to be. The distances are so far that normal chemical propulsion, whether it's rockets or anything, it's just too slow. It's incredibly too slow. At some point, I'll go over how long it takes just to get from here to, say, Mars. It's months. Here to Jupiter's years. And anywhere further than that it's virtually, impossible from the standpoint of how much space there is. That said, what people don't talk about is and also why would they come all this way and then burn things in crop circles? That makes zero sense to me. I'm not entirely sure if they're drunk or if they're just stupid. Like, why would you come all the way here and then burn something in a crop circle and not burn something in the White House lawn, right? Unless people think there's a conspiracy and the White House lawn is constantly being replanted so that we don't see the signs on it. I just don't, it just makes no sense why they would go talk out there rather than here. Unless they're teenagers and they're visiting and that's their form of graffiti and they don't want to break some time or temporal loop laws that they're not allowed to things. So crop circles aren't obviously going to change anything in our timeline. But think about this. What if they weren't coming from really, really far away? I've often thought, what if they're coming from through time, right? What if they're coming, temporally through time? My hypothesis is got some holes in it, basically because if you ever look at a really awesome video online called How the Earth Moves Through Time, what you see is that it's all these large spirals, spiral loops that we're creating with the orbit of our planet around our star's orbit around the galaxy, our galaxy's orbit around something else, and all these giant like loops within loops that are going, in a direction, and they're not all aimed in the same direction. But the point is, if someone's coming from, more than a few thousand years in any direction, they are coming from a location that in their time is many millions of kilometers from where we are right now, even though it sounds like they're just going right through a time slip to Earth again. They're not. They're going to an empty point in space where the Earth used to be, or the Earth was, or the Earth will be. So, you have to sort of think about it that way too. All right, let's get to today's topic. Today's topic is martial arts part 2. Last time I ended with talking about kata, and the next time I will talk about fighting and techniques. So, what is the need for kata? First of all, let me tell people who don't know what kata is. Kata is a very unique to the martial arts, and it is an opportunity. It's basically, think of it like a dance, but with fighting techniques and fighting stances. It's the same every time. So you learn, a kata. The kata is, let's say, 1,000 moves. You learn how to execute that kata at a certain pace. That kata's pace and technique are part of your endurance training. They also do, try and offer you an opportunity to see how that strike would be thrown. So kata is a very important portion of some of the traditional martial arts. It's not as used in some of the new MMA stuff. It's not as used in some of the newer type of martial arts. But in the old style of training, you learn kata because it was an opportunity for you to practice different moves, different stances, build up your endurance. You had to be in these stances for long periods of time. You're moving the whole time. You're not fighting somebody. And I think I noted last time that the way kata sort of worked was it was about giving you a chance to perform that perfect technique without having someone interrupt you, because they're fighting you and they might jam you up, or they might create interruptions in your opportunity to understand what is the sort of perfect execution of a technique. In most styles, if you look at whether it's kendo, which is fighting with swords in Japan, Chinese kung fu, karate, both hard and soft styles, they have different kinds of kata and weapons forms that let you practice the techniques. And when you go to competitions, various competitions, you actually compete against other people in kata competition, where there are 5 judges or 10 judges or whatever, and they rank you on your execution, your concentration, your focus, various things like that. And there are people out there who make quite a splash online because they're constantly winning these kata competitions and doing quite well. I don't have a plus or minus on kata. I think anything you do is going to be good for your training. What's nice about kata, though, when it comes to writing, is you know how something ought to look. And so when you write and you want to write about someone who is better than one would think, it's a real opportunity for you to create really great drama around techniques that are executed in a way that are almost perfect in their moves. And there's no way you can do that unless you have ever seen great kata or watched someone really execute on a great kata. So, I'll tell you, in all honesty, there are people out there who I've watched do kata, and it blows me away how good they are. They're incredibly talented. Does it have, are you ever going to do that kind of technique in a real fight? I would be shocked if you could ever execute a kata technique in a real fight. I'm not saying it couldn't be done by somebody, but I think ultimately the whole point of kata is to give you the chance to practice something without the interruptions and without the interference of an opponent. It gives you the chance to practice that perfect punch, the perfect kick, chambering, your breathing, your stances. It gives you the chance to understand how that move would be executed if there were no one, if you were so great at it that no one could affect the way that you actually did your techniques. So I think kata has a place in the martial arts for sure, and I certainly think as a writer, kata has helped to inform me to be able to describe different moves in a way that sounds and feels more like a master executing them than a neophyte or a journeyman. And I think that's a nice thing to have. When I this whole thing started with talking about testing and what I had to do to get my black belt. So in addition to all the techniques we do to build up our endurance, when we test for black belt, we do every kata in our system one after the other. There's about I don't even know, there's 80 or 90 katas, and each one takes 5 minutes or so to do. So you are doing, typically you're doing katas for a few hours. And that's the beginning of our test. It is what gets, I think, it sort of separates the, men and women from the boys and girls. It makes you have to sort of show that you have the endurance, because the rest of your technique, the rest of your test doesn't even start until you finish all your katas and all your weapons forms. So, once you finish all of those, then we have techniques where there's somewhere between 50 and 100 techniques that you're attacked with. They involve single opponent, double opponent, triple opponent, and they attack you like, someone holds your hands from behind, someone comes at you with a punch, and there's two guys on the sides coming in, with different kinds of techniques. What do you do? And then you have to execute that technique based on what my instructor would say. When you were done with that, then you did your breaking, which was every technique in the system you had to break with. And so I think I said before, we had 90 or 100 different strikes. You had to break with all of them. The minimum you broke with was a couple of boards with no spacers. The maximum was a cinder block. I have broken and seen people break insane amounts. I broke 5 boards like this with no spacers, so about that thick of boards, no spacers, with this knuckle right here, right? In fact, this knuckle's messed up. I ended up breaking it with my left hand. Because my right hand, I hit it and I wasn't thinking through the boards. I was thinking about the top of the board, instead of the way you break is to think through the technique and then follow that technique all the way through. So if you've practiced your technique all the time and you're really, really good with that, you don't have to focus on so much the technique execution, because you should be great at that. You've had years of throwing thousands upon thousands of these, right? And so you've thrown thousands and thousands of these. You can see my wrist, right? My wrist got really strong holding and striking. Same with the forearm. They all get really strong from holding and striking. But when I hit, for some reason that particular day, I think it's because you worry about your knuckles breaking. And so, of course, I broke my knuckle. You worry about it. Bam, I hit. I literally stopped, and my knuckle went, psh, and like blood went psh, across the board like a little vertical thing. And my instructor called the boards off because he's wondering, they're potentially cracked. Got 5 new ones, put them down, and said, "What do you want to do?" I said, left hand. And you know what? Left hand did it. Boom. I went right through like it was butter. I didn't even feel the boards. It felt like they broke before I even hit them. And that actually is a great sign that your chi, your focus is right. I never felt the actual impact. My hands went right through it. And I happen to be equally good with my left and right hand when it comes to being able to throw power, as breaking those boards showed. After you're breaking, you have to do your fighting. And we'll talk about fighting next week, but I had to fight 3 black belts for 5 minutes, and it was I had to do 5 controlled killing strikes on each. They had to just basically try to knock me out. If they knocked me out, I failed. Pretty simple. That was painful. You definitely learn a lot about your own willingness to continue when everything in your body is telling you to stop. So we'll go into a little bit of that, and I have some new insight as to why so many styles, by the way, do this fighting higher belts to get your belt. And I never understood why, ultimately, because it doesn't prove much once you've done it, except for something very specific when it comes to your actual role after the test as a black belt or as an instructor. And I'll go into the mentality of, I think, why it's done. It's actually quite genius why so many styles, I think, have this part of the test. And finally, I had to squat. In a horse stance, thighs parallel to the ground. And I had to hold that stance. And I had to hold it without moving, with my arms out like this in front of me. And you would be surprised. I had to hold that stance for a minimum of 20 minutes. And I held it for 23 and a half minutes. And in fact, I would have kept going. My instructor told me to put my arms down. But I will tell you that is an incredibly painful situation. Try it sometime. Put your back against a wall so your back is flat. Sink down so that you're in a horse stance until your thighs are parallel to the ground. Put your arms out in front of you. And if you've never done it before and you can get to 1 minute, I would be really impressed. Like, just post it. Post it on a thing, picture of you and the time that you did. I would be really impressed if anyone gets to a minute. I'd be really impressed if anyone gets, to a minute or two. That would be, it's really, really not, if you have discipline mentally, it's possible to do. That squat is not about there's some level of endurance that you have to have gained, but really more than anything else, it's your ability to shut off pain and to shut off, to have the discipline to ignore what your body is telling you. And frankly, that's what all the martial arts are. It's about discipline. It's about teaching you that your mind is in control of your body is not in control of your mind. And it's a very nice way. It's a very nice thing to know that ultimately I can ignore pain and whatever else my body's going through, and I can drive to the objective that I want. And that's why when I write, there's really not there's a level of discipline when you look at the various characters in the story that they gain, and they gain it through hardship and sacrifice and effort, not through hopefully not through montages. I think montages are great though in movies, but I don't know if anyone's ever seen Team America, but they have this, when you want to do something great, it's through a montage. It's hilariously funny. Puppets, right? Puppets trying to save the world. But unlike movies and other things, that montage really does represent real true investment of time. So when you get a chance to think about katas, and when you learn about katas, are they useful? Are they valuable? I think they are useful and valuable from the standpoint of giving you an opportunity to understand what your body's capable of. They help you understand the limits to what you can do. And every time you pass one of those limits, you gain confidence. And I actually think the secret to being a great martial artist, a great fighter, a great writer is confidence, right? It's confidence in what you're doing and being able to execute. Remember, at the end of the day, the only thing that stops you ultimately is fear, right? Fear of failure, fear of getting hurt, fear of whatever, right? Whatever it is, it's fear. And if you can learn to avoid that fear, you'll be doing really, really well. So I'm gonna leave you guys with that small piece of inspiration. Now I want to show you that other thing. So you remember last week I said that I have a sword coming. I'm going to show it to you. So the same maker of the daggers, right, made this blade. I'm going to take it out, show you guys. I'll take the thing away. This is a beautiful weapon. For those of you who can see it already, you can see, I don't want to touch the blade itself, so you can see it is a pattern Damascus. He's done all the way up and down the blade. It is gorgeous, right? I mean, look at that. Look at the pattern on that thing. That is some seriously beautiful, beautiful work. And I'm gonna try and see if this thing will focus on it a little bit better. Maybe if I get really close. I know on the there we go. Look at that. It's combat ready. It's razor sharp. It is, the handle and hilt are also done out of that same piece of Damascus. It's not as long as you would think, right? It's actually, you know, it's actually a little longer than a gladius. Nicely done. The only complaint I have about it, and this is because I'm a bladesman who actually uses blades. The only complaint I have is I wish it were a little heavier. A little heavier down here would have counterbalanced this thing really nicely. Right now, if I showed you where the balance is, it's a little forward of the handle. It's about right there, right? That's about where the handle, the thing is. And it really should be right about here, right? That's where you want it to be ideally. Sorry, that's where you want it to be ideally. You want it to be right about there, the weight, and the weight's actually a little forward of the handle. So it's a little harder to recover. It's a little harder from the chop, but you know, nice leaf kind of shape to it, as you can see. Beautiful, beautiful Damascus pattern to it. This is called a nail Damascus, where he probably inserted nails into the actual thing itself. It's a really gorgeous weapon. So I'll try and get the information on the maker so you guys can check it out. But boy, I mean, what a beautiful blade, isn't it? That's just a beautiful, beautiful blade. So I'm hoping everyone has a chance to come on out. Again, I will be at the Barnes & Noble in Rockville Pike, Rockville, Maryland, November 10th. I'm looking forward to meeting anyone who can make it out there. I'm super excited to sign books, to talk about Mythborn 4. I wrote a little chapter yesterday on the next series, Techborn. At least that's what I'm calling it right now, but I'll probably call it something else when we finally launch it. And just a little bit to understand how nanotech works in the future, so that I run the same rules as I'm, writing Mythborn now, because it's the same system of magic, nanotech. And I'm really, really looking forward to meeting you all in person at the Barnes & Noble, November 10th at Rockville Pike, Barnes & Noble in Rockville, Maryland. Check out our website, www.mythbornmedia.com. Check out our Audible site for the audiobook. It's really good. You guys will really enjoy it. It's people seem to be really loving it. And, stay tuned. Always new news. We are busy working on some game pitches that we're going to be sharing with various folks out there. Yay. And also working on some treatments and other stuff that I think will really sort of start sprucing up the website a little bit, so you get to see that. Guys, I love talking to you. I can't wait till next week. This is episode 25 about martial arts training and getting your black belt in my system. And then next week we'll go through fighting techniques. That'll be awesome. That'll be number 26. So I wish you guys the best. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much, and take care. That was off, and now we'll say goodbye here.